5 p.m. yesterday when we clapped for people working in our health services, defense services, our banking services, civic services. I also had the people like you in media also who have been serving the society at this critical juncture. The market has now the fear of the unknown. I mean, most of the known unknowns are, I think, in the price, but now I think the fear itself is the biggest. I mean, we have a fear of the fear itself. And I think the market is looking at an absolutely unknown what can happen. It's so interesting that, just when the humanity was looking at conquering the Mars and the Moon, I mean, a small virus has unmasked our fragility of not only the financial system, but the existence of the human beings as species. I think I'm quite hopeful that over the next few days, I believe in human ingenuity. I think whether a vaccine or some medication over the next few days, I think the efforts that have been made by several countries, and that's where I think India can also play a big role given our size and our history of the pharmaceuticals as an industry, healthcare as an industry. I'm hopeful that in next few days, there is a probability that now that the crisis has engulfed the entire world with almost 175 countries have got patients and the governments are reacting finally very fast, I'm hopeful that something positive may come. Now, of course, from a market's perspective, as I mentioned earlier, we have to fear the fear itself. What people don't know is what is completely unknown. I mean, we know that valuations have become attractive. We know that till few days back, just a few days back, nobody would have visualized, nobody would have imagined that these kind of prices are likely to be on ticker. We're trying to pinch ourselves to see whether what we are seeing on the screen is reality. But I think, as I mentioned, that we have to fear the fear itself. As far as the history is concerned, I'm sure this is the biggest crisis that humanity has seen in last century. But as far as history is concerned, looking at some of the other crises that we have seen may not be as unknown and as unpredictable as this is. The history suggests that dark clouds are always followed by a shining sun. What we don't know at this point in time is how long those dark clouds may continue. All we know is that at some point in time, a shining sun will come back. And I think that's where we need to have the faith in the ingenuity of humanity.
Right. So, Navneet, a couple of questions. I mean, how are you managing this scenario? I know you said it's a wait and watch mode, but it must be chaos out there in terms of the interactions that you're having currently as well. Pressures in terms of, are we seeing any pressures on redemptions and so on and so forth? And secondly, we're hearing a huge clamor for action on the front of the RBI and the government. Is that something that could possibly reassure markets somewhat, even though the big cloud of fear continues to prevail until we have a solution to the pandemic?
Sure. So I'll come to the second point that you asked. One is the policy response. So if you look at globally, central banks have not only cut interest rates sharply, but also are printing money. They are buying right from treasuries to corporate bonds to commercial papers to EBS to even equities in some of the countries. They are providing forbearance, they are providing swap lines, they are providing guarantees to money market mutual funds and variety of things that central banks globally have done. We have done some additional LTRO and the additional OMO, but I think we need to do a lot more, both from the government side as well as all the other policymakers side. I think we need a sharp rate cut. We need substantially higher liquidity in the market, even in the AAA space, even in the commercial paper space, even in the certificate of deposit space. I think we need to think unconventionally and creatively. How do we support those markets where rates have actually moved up? We want lower rates. We want more liquidity in the system to stem this fall, and all kinds of solutions which we may not have tried in past. For example, can we defer the financial year itself from 31st March to something like 30th April, so that the pressure that comes because of the year-end considerations, I think that's taken off from corporates and from the financial system. Can the PSU bank merger be put off for a few days so that they are better prepared to deal with the volatility? Can we relax the MTM norms, mark-to-market norms for the bank so that they can go and buy more corporate bonds or commercial or some of the other securities? Can we relax the LCR norms? Can we look at all the tightening that we have done of financial system, including the mutual funds or AIS or PMS or advisors or distributors? Can we have a rethinking on all of that? From the government's perspective, the fiscal space is limited. But I think the first and foremost, I think at a war scale, we need to ensure that from a health crisis perspective, we don't allow it to go into the community spread where there are early signs. I think if we can contain it, India could ultimately be a big beneficiary. But apart from that, I think how do we ensure that sectors which may get negatively impacted, they don't create another challenge for the financial system where we already had some of the faults.
And with that, we'll be taking a quick break here. Slip into a quick break. Always on the other side.